Hi, everyone. Welcome back and welcome, Jennifer. So we have Jennifer, it's Urezzio, right? Is that
It
how you say
is correct. Thank you very much.
it? Jennifer Urezzio, founder of Soul Language. Let me say that again, Soul Language. Jennifer, tell everybody a little more about your work.
Sure. So I really help people really align their voice and their vision. I believe that your voice is your brand. And in order to do that and put consciousness into your business, you have to tune into your soul and the soul of your business. So I teach people how to tune into their soul and the soul of their business to create internal and external actions to actually receive from their big vision. And I do that through a process called soul language, which puts tangibility to soul and the soul of a business.
Mm. And would this apply to other things people do besides having businesses? I mean, I have a business, but not everybody who's watching does.
Yeah, I mean, the way you create is to put consciousness or wholeness and completeness in everything you do. So if you want a relationship and you're putting your pain and programming out into the ether, you're going to get pain and programming in relationships versus something that is satisfying and joyful. So it applies to everything. When you understand your soul, you understand what you're putting into the universal goo.
Hmm. And how do we understand our soul? How do we get that message?
Yeah, so we put tangibility to soul, and I say we because I teach other practitioners to use soul language in their sacred work. So we identify the three core energies of soul. Those are your mission, how you feel that mission, and then your soulful personality. And then we actually ask questions of the soul and we do internal energy work to kind of come into alignment versus being in your pain and programming. So we'll use me as an example. So my soulful personality is called Graceful Warrior, Action, Movement, Courage, and Grace. Most of my life, not so graceful, at war with everything. And when I really started to accept that I didn't have to make war with myself or others to get what I want, my life really changed. I moved one house over. I got a publisher for my book. I received bigger clients. I got my ideal mate. So really understanding when you're operating from pain and programming versus love and enoughness, that really changes the way you manifest and the way you create, and of course, the way you receive.
Wow. So is your work archetypal? That's kind of what I'm hearing. You help people discover an archetype.
So archetypes do not move. They're fixed, right? So languages are evolutionary. They change, meaning you can become more conscious. The energy changes from, unconscious behavior to consciousness. So, you know, it's kind of like we're putting words in descriptions, but it's an evolutionary state. So the way that you utilize that energy will grow over time, and the understanding of your soul will grow over time. Where archetypes tend to be kind of fixed and tends to be black and white, good, bad, right, wrong, that kind of thing.
Okay. But do you help people it sounded like you were saying like you're a what grace you say graceful warrior?
Graceful warrior. Yeah, that's
A
one of
graceful
my
warrior.
three
So
core energies of soul. We're describing the energies rather than how our personality asserts itself, right? So these are energies that you choose, that you're born with. They are soul, they are divinity, and it's about how you utilize that energy versus your personality or anything.
very interesting. Okay. Um yeah, and then you also talk about energy leaks. So what's an energy leak and how does it get in the way?
Yeah, so an energy leak is where you're utilizing your energy unsuccessfully or unconscious or unsustainably. So think of it this way. Think you have 100 pennies of energy each day to create what you want. And say that you're using 15 of your pennies to keep a program running, right? Like not enough money, not enough time. Okay.
Mm,
So then say you're using another 15 pennies to keep another programming running, like, I don't know what I do, or I don't know what my talents are.
mm.
Okay. That's 30 pennies that you're using of energy, right? So that's only 70 pennies to use, which I know sounds like a lot, but it's not really a lot to utilize to create what you want. So energy leaks are ways that you're using your energy that is actually creating a leak or creating, I have the hiccups, or unsustainability versus how you want to use it, which is powerfully. And there tends to be generally four. how you feel about money, how you feel about your gifts and talents, how you feel about yourself, your own energy, and then how you feel about the world.
Hmm.
So those are money, gifts, talents, and war.
Hmm.
And I always tell people, like, let's do the money one because everyone has a little bit of that, right?
Yeah.
So people who have that money leak are, not enough money. If you have a business, you're really great for your clients and you're like, where's my money? Right? You are paying Peter, stealing Peter for paying Paul or whatever that saying is, right? You're
Mhm.
always just about squeaking by, or you are really not generous with yourself when it comes to money, meaning you squirrel it away because you're afraid that a rainy day will come and you won't have a lot of money. It's all about lack on that one. And I tell people when we're in that energy lake, it's really about how you feel and your relationship with divinity, because the divine is our source of that resource. And so if you believe that this person, this job, this thing is in charge of your receiving and your money, we need to realign that because it's not. You're in charge of it, and your relationship with divinity is.
Interesting. And so, so people have leaks around money, around their talents, around the world. What was the second one? You told me.
Around their own energy.
Oh, so like I can't.
Right? Like no boundaries, right?
Uh,
It, right? A huge impasse, right? Like, oh my God, I can't be in the same room with people because I feel too much. That's really about you, not about them, right? It's about how you're utilizing your energy. That
mm,
also tends to be, I don't know. The talents one is like, I don't know how to explain what I do. I don't know what I'm good at. I can't get anything right. If you're saying these things, and I have a quiz that everyone can like determine their number one, but let's start to close them because then you get to use that pennies of energy for yourself to create what you want versus kind of hitting your head against the wall time and time again to try to get what you want. I I lived upstairs from a woman like 15 years ago, and the walls were really, really thin. And she kept having the same conversation with different people, her boyfriend, her mother, someone else. And she was screaming, so it wasn't like I was eavesdropping, but it was the same conversation. You don't see me, you don't hear me, you don't listen to me. And I desperately wanted to go downstairs, Allison, go, that's about you, not about them, right? So it's anything that you keep having the same result in time and time again is an energy leak.
and how do you help people seal those?
So it's really about closing that gap and making a new choice, right? And it's about really tuning into the soul and getting a soul perspective and then rearranging the pattern. So one I love to do is safety because I think people do a lot of crazy things because they don't feel safe, right? So the first question I would ask is let's just tune into your soul, tune into your heart, and ask what's the main cause you don't feel safe? And you'll get an answer. And then we activate that. So we use activations, which is using our body's lack of free will to put us in a consciousness. Our body doesn't have free will. It's our mind and heart does, right? So if everything works and we ask our body to raise its hand, it must comply. So when we use a divine intelligence statement for our body, divine intelligence, it will put us in a consciousness immediately. So Alice, do you want to try something?
We'll do it.
Okay, so close your eyes. Everyone just kind of get on my bus for a moment. And here goes. Repeat after me. Divine intelligence.
Divine intelligence.
Fill me with the feeling and knowing
Fill me with the feeling and knowing
that I am safe.
that I am safe.
And just tell me what you notice in your system and your body.
Um, hmm. So my sides kind of filled with calm, and then my middle kind of filled with dread.
Okay. So then we would focus on what that middle was about, right? Like there's the main issue. So when you say middle, I assume above the belly button and below the belly button, right?
Yeah, but it's also like the
The
middle.
central energetic channel. Okay. So let's try something else. So close your eyes and repeat after me. Divine intelligence,
Divine intelligence,
activate a willingness
activate a willingness
to feel divine safety
to feel divine safety
in my central energetic channel.
in my central energetic channel.
How was that? Was that better?
Uh, no, but it was different. Um, oh, okay. So there's definitely still a resistance, like sad and squirmy. And I'm also feeling like a real bright light crystally, like I'm wearing rhinestones, so you can't see them. Um, and sparkly like rhinestone. Um, yeah, kind of rising up in my throat. Um, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then it would be tuning into those parts of you that is squirrely and resisting and going, okay, why are you resisting to feel safe? Like that's like, and we don't have to do it now, but that's the work, right? Like to go, okay, we just activated safety and you're not getting on board. Why aren't you getting on board? And if you're not getting on board now, and I'm not talking about you, I'm just talking about in general, right? Then you're putting people are putting the non-safety, whether they are conscious in it or not, in everything they do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And sneaky feeling unsafe is very, very, very squirrely, as you said, right? It's like, oh, that was interesting. Like, it's almost like you go halfway into the pool and then you're like, I think I'm all the way in the pool and you're not, right? So you're keep holding back. So those are some of the things that we do to close energy leaks. And we also start to talk about, you know, what are those fundamental beliefs that really aren't yours? So beliefs are kind of rooted in morality, right? Uh, and this is a big concept, so just go with me for a second, right? There's really only one law, right? You're doing harm to someone. But we have all of these moral laws in our head, like this is right, this is wrong. And we then create beliefs around that. And so one of the things I do is I ask somebody, okay, so what's this belief? And what do you think is right and wrong here? And why do you think it's right and wrong? And if you didn't think it was right or wrong, what would you do in that case? And you watch people calm down because they're like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to believe that or do that. Like that's based on some weird morality that's wasn't even mine. It's probably my great 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 grandfather's, right? So those are some of the things that we do to close that energetic gap.
Mm. Thank you. Yeah, I'll sometimes say to myself, what if there was no right answer? What would I do? Yeah. Um, and then so you mentioned one of the soul energies. What are the other ones?
Yeah, so there's 107 core energies across the three different categories. So my mission here is called Equalizer. It's all about creating that perfect formula of balance. How I'll be known here is called Teacher of Integrity. All of my life, I've been able to see where people are out of the consciousness of love. And then, as I discussed, my soulful personality is graceful warrior. So some of the other languages are pioneers of mission language, matriarch, patriarch is a mission language. Some of the how you'll be known here are lawmaker. Some of the soulful personalities are, I like maker energy, I guess today, fire maker. And so when you understand your three core energies, it gives you a lot of meat. Especially, I always give somebody a one liner, which is based on their three languages. And I go, okay, that's your mild marker of consciousness. If you're not being and doing that, you're creating struggle. So, my mild marker of consciousness is I create balance for myself and others through love, integrity, and courage. So, if I'm not being and doing that, I'm going to be actually miserable. And it becomes this way of really being able to dance with the energy of the world and make choices based on wholeness and completeness versus your pain and programming.
Hmm, got it. And for somebody who's, really committed to making a difference globally, socially, really changing the way the world is, right? Creating more, peace and justice and freedom in the world. And maybe they're stuck, or maybe they're angry and being automatic. What might be out of alignment?
They're probably trying to, well, if they feel stuck, that would probably say that they feel a deep sense of hopelessness, right? They don't know what action to take. And I would say the first thing would be to fill us with safety and then see what limitations they're putting on the change for the world. If they're angry, I would say, okay, anger, you're trying to anger yourself as a motivating force, but that doesn't really work. It only works for so long, right? So what are we truly angry about? And how is that anger really reflecting back at you? Because here's the thing. We are the individualization of the one. And when we change ourselves, we change the world. And so often when people are ready to change the world, they so often don't look at their own life to see how it can be transformed. And that will lead to a lot of external fighting. And that doesn't support them or the world.
Yeah, very clear. Um, and then, um, one of the themes of this series is purpose, and it sounds like working with getting clarity about your energy types could make a big difference in finding your purpose. Yeah, tell us
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, I mean, I believe that we are always being our purpose, right? I think people confuse purpose and delivery systems. My purpose is not soul language. That's a great delivery system. My purpose is about connection. And I actually have a whole entire ebook called That's Not Your Effing Purpose, because there's so many myths around purpose that people get so locked down about that. And so I invite people to say, okay, ask your soul, ask your heart how you're being your purpose today. Vividly and clearly show you how that is. Because purpose is about a being state, it's not about a doing state. And I asked about a couple of years ago, more like 10 years ago, like 30 or 40 people I was interviewing, like, okay, so what's your sacred purpose? And they're like, my purpose is to empower women from, I'm like, no, it's not. And you could watch them like get mad. I was like, that's so limiting. You're making your purpose about externally, and that is going to lead to a lot of feelings of, I'm not being my purpose. But when you really understand that your purpose is internally, and we find out through listening to our soul, that means you're being your purpose every day. And then the delivery system shows up with ease and with grace. The community, the support shows up with ease and grace versus feeling like you're on a search for something that's already inside of you.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I have definitely experienced this, like striving, like it's this.
Right.
Wait, or is it this? Oh no, 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 that's definitely not it. I can't include that.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you start from being, and that makes sense because, well, I mean, if I'd been born in a different time, I would still have the same being purpose, but not the same external
Doing purpose.
doing
Exactly.
purpose.
Yeah. And when you realize that, when you accept that, that creates a whole lot of freedom inside of you to actually take action on what feels right around that being a purpose. I would be doing exactly what I would be being and probably supporting people exactly the same way if I was a bartender. It would be a sucky delivery system for me, right? But I would be being and doing that. I mean, I've been in the grocery store and people just come up and start telling me their problems. I was in Russia once and I was like, I totally know what you're saying energetically, but I don't know how to communicate what the answer is, right? So it's when you are vibrating at that being state, it's amazing about all of the resources that help you fulfill that purpose in a whole new way. They just show up.
Yeah, yeah, really clear. Um, and oh, I have a question. So with the different, I know you don't call them archetypes,
Languages.
languages, with the different languages, are there are there some that activists are more likely to be?
Uh, that's a great question, but the answer is no. No. I mean, sorry, I'm just listening. I would say on a human level, those would be warrior-like energies, right? Graceful warrior, gladiator, constable, pioneer, like those kind of energies, because they're kind of like, let's go and action oriented. But I've seen activists with languages that are still in nature, and I've been like, well, that's kind of crazy, right? So it's not just our soul, it's our overlay of human experiences that allows us to kind of craft the perfect energetic storm for ourselves.
And what if someone, I mean, one of my big things is there's room for everyone.
Yeah.
And, don't force yourself to try to do actions based on what you think you're supposed to do or you think is the only way. Um, how do, people who have this stillness energy, how do they find their expression in making change?
That's really about asking, how do I want to utilize my energy to serve myself and the world? And the soul will answer, right? You know, and if the soul doesn't answer immediately, something will be drawn to you and you're like, oh, look, there it is. Or you'll be reading a book or watching TV or listening to someone. Like when you're really open to receiving those answers, they do show up. I think we're so focused on like knowing how the book ends, like just tell me so I can get this part over, so I can feel like I'm getting what I want. And I get that because I'm warrior nature and I totally get that. Um, but if you move into a deeper sense of trust, the world kind of lines up for you.
Yeah, that makes sense. So either you'll get it internally or it'll show up externally. And if you're open, you'll recognize it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Um, yeah. Yeah. I'm just looking, I'm like, you can believe in fate, which has it make sense, or you can not believe in fate and just believe in like
Yeah.
cognitive attunement, right?
Yeah.
And once
I
you're open, you're actually going to see.
and hear it and understand it. Yeah. And I would say it's really no matter which way that process, if you're doing it by faith or fate, or, listening, you're really still co-creating with the universe, right? Like this is not about like, there's that old joke about, this guy who's like, the flood's coming and he's like, God will provide. And the boat shows up, the car shows up, and the helicopter shows up. And he doesn't take those because he's like, God will provide. And at the gates, he's like, what happened? He's like, who do you think sent all that stuff? Like, so often I think people are like waiting for that big golden ticket moment, and there's very few of those. They're the little tiny moments that add up to the big ticket, and it's really noticing those tiny moments.
That's really helpful.
Thank you.
So we're getting close to the end. Tell everybody about your free gift you're offering.
So I am offering that there's a part of there's a quiz that tells you your energy leak, and then you get tangible tools through a series of emails, and you get one right away. And you can actually start to put those things in action and to change that energy leak. So feel free to take the quiz. And if anyone has any questions, you can always email me. Um, the quiz is great. It takes less than 5 minutes and you're like, oh, and it's very clear, very precise. So enjoy that and find out which energy leak you have been utilizing to keep yourself in struggle.
Sounds very useful,
Thank you.
especially with the follow up of like, what do you do given
Yeah.
that? Yeah. Well, anything else you want to share?
I just want to remind people, no matter if you want to change the world, then you really have to start treating yourself and others like they're whole and complete. They might not be acting like they're whole and complete, but you need to start treating people and yourself like you're whole and complete, or nothing's going to change.
Yeah, thank you. Let people
You're
step
welcome.
into your listening. get the listening you want. Well, thank you so much, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Lot to learn here, and then people will get to sign up for your gift and stay in touch.
Thank you.